Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive. I hope you all really enjoying life at this stage. We just came out of Easter, and this is such a nice, happy time. So welcome. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus, and as usual with me is my colleague.
Hi, and good evening, everyone. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite. Happy to be here as always. Excited to having all of you in with us. Jennifer, how are we? How are things?
Things great. I'm still happy. I'm very happy coming off of my birthday, Easter. My granddaughter's birthday was on Saturday. So this is really a great time to celebrate life and just to be happy to be alive. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's so important to do different things. There's so many things to do. This weekend, I went to Matalat on a National Trust tour.
Oh, yes.
So interesting, you know, and I was supposed to go with some other friends and they canceled and I still went and it was so fun. Meet a whole lot of people. You know, you wouldn't think you'll go by yourself on a bus for 3 hours and come back 3 hours and to a certain place. And it's, you know, doing different things really is important for expanding our horizons, expanding our views, and making sure life stays interesting. So I had a
not feeling that you must have somebody, some friend with you. Something of interest, something you like to do, you go.
And you know, one of the things I found, Jennifer, that was interesting, I looked at the people on the bus. The people who came with someone spend the whole day with that someone. They didn't meet anybody new. But the people who came on their own, and there were many people, it reminded me of a C50 Plus event. It's safe to come by yourself and you're bound to make new friends.
Yeah, make new friends. That's nice.
So the people who came on their own got together, chatted, explored different places together, and got to know so much about each other. And those who came with someone, stayed with someone, and lived with someone. And, you know, I just think that sort of ties into what we might be talking about today. So
yeah, and it's easy to chat with people who have similar interests. You know, so you all
means that
you went for one particular purpose. So you know that makes a difference. Yeah.
So it was fun. I had a fun weekend.
Marianne, I thought, you know, as we get older and we have certainly, to me, the conversation changes. You know, people say older people either talk about the ache, the pain, the grandchildren, that sort of thing. I say you hear a lot, the conversation is a lot about being lonely or what would happen, you know, because so many of our friends either dying out or not able to move around as before. So you tend to feel, oh gosh, it could be me, you know, and what will happen if I can't do that? What will happen if I have nobody, you know, I also think about it a lot, because especially living alone, when I think about it, Terry, when I'm not feeling well, as long as I'm good health, but when I'm not feeling well, I say, oh gosh, if something happened, you know, who I could call or who would come and stay with me or what I will do. So it comes up. It comes up. So I could relate at this stage, I could relate to conversations like that, you know? So I find more often than not, that conversation comes up about not having a circle of friends. That family is one thing, yes, but sometimes in some cases, if family may be busy or you may not have, you're trying away,
Or
etc., etc.
depleted. Depleted.
Yeah. So having, I talk about having a nice circle of friends, but still you wonder, I wonder if you have enough people around you to make you feel comfortable. In my case, as I say, in an event that I'm not feeling well and I need somebody to bring me some soup or something.
Mhm, mhm. And Jennifer, you say that you're finding the conversation coming up more often than not. And
Yeah,
I think that where the conversation has not come up, it is a source of very significant and deep worry for many of us. Because I would say 99% of us at this stage are concerned. You do the service and they say not concerned at all, slightly concerned, neutral,
yeah.
concerned, very concerned, extremely concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were to do a sampling of our cohort, most people would be expressing concern, whether it is verbalized, admitted, or not. And for those who are not expressing the concern, very often if we are perceptive and if we are trained to see it, we'll see elaborate facades being built to try and hide the concern. Whether it is
Yeah.
how you live your life, how you carry yourself, what you do. But yes, it is a real issue, especially because we don't have that community-based kind of life. And I think
Yeah.
a good, I would guess over 80% of us do not live in the communities that we grew up in. So
That's true.
we
That's true.
don't live amongst a community that
We're
know us.
not in touch with those people we grew up with, who you will have called auntie or cousins, as long as you're within the area.
Yeah.
That's family. You consider them family.
Yeah. I've lived where I've lived for, where I now live for over 30 years. And in case of emergency, yes, somebody will call an ambulance. But once that act is done, you're kind of on your own. Somebody needs to meet me by the hospital. And I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of what
So we need to look more at, I guess, building community and reaching out more. So we kind of won't have that fear of being lonely or being alone, whichever it is.
Yeah. I think they're two different things. Alone may not be, well, people choose the way they define things a little differently. Alone is by yourself, but that may or may not be an upsetting place to be.
Yeah.
For
So
some
you
people,
like being
being
alone. You like, I
alone
am
is
happy. I'm happy home alone. Yeah.
fine. I like to go alone for a week and not have to deal with people and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So alone is not a triggering word for many people. Lonely is.
And that's different.
Alone may have an idea of I can get back to a place where I'm not alone. I might have a circle that I could come back to.
Yeah.
But lonely kind of connotes no option.
Like you have no choice. You have nobody to turn to or to call.
which
Yeah.
is why the US Surgeon General has declared a loneliness epidemic in the US, and it also exists in the world. And in fact, it is part of what is causing premature mortality with many of us, with stress and people with symptoms of diseases that there's no one around you to help you point out that this is different and this is
Yeah.
happening. And you should look at this, because very often it's the people around you who point out to you, something is wrong. What's happening there? Why are you doing this or not doing this? So,
And I mean, I don't know the statistics, Terian, but as you said that, I believe the percentage is very high within our cohort.
oh yes, oh yes, definitely.
You know, I believe that because, as we have mentioned earlier on our show,
Mm-hmm.
that many of us, we didn't have the big family, the 5 or 6 children. We had one, two, or none. And at this stage now, where we may be looking to call and have more people to call on or to socialize with, we realize, hey boy, we don't have that. We don't have the circle of friends, or we don't have the family circle, you know,
Hmm.
to be around us to help with that loneliness. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. You say that, and we've discussed this to some extent, and we talked about the 5 blue zones where people look to,
Yeah.
you have something to do, remain active, you have a community and what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Very often you tend to wonder, we have lived our lives, for most of us, probably so not focused on people, but focused on whether it is the nuclear, if you're a homemaker, getting those kids ready to go to be the best at whatever they could be, wherever it was they were into. And if we were in the world of work at whatever level, top of the ladder, middle of the ladder, bottom of the ladder, whatever it is, and fulfilling the dreams, getting that house. We spend so many more hours working.
Yeah.
Many people up in the night and come back in the night to go back to sleep. So a big chunk of life that could have been used to build networks in the neighborhood, or go and join the co-treat, or you have a little social club or something like
Yeah.
that. Then you didn't have that time. So, you come back and you're really now saying, let me get involved in something fast.
And those who have been able to do that, and there's always time, you're never too old to get involved in some sort of activity like that, some group or some club. That's great. But
Mhm.
those who haven't been able to do that and find themselves now, and again, I see a difference as you're going at the different ages, as you get closer to the 70s, the 80s, you find yourself now saying, but there's nobody around again. You know? And we need to look at that. And I want to discuss something, Terry, and that came up quite recently again in conversation.
Mhm.
And for us with families, and you read stories about people who on their deathbed, and you ask them what is their regret in life, and they might say their regret is they spend too much time maybe working or focusing on something, and they didn't spend enough time building relationship or mending the little issues they had with families. Sometimes they get angry and they're not talking to a sibling, etc., etc. And they would say they regret not building back that relationship. And I think that is an issue. It's a very troubling one, you know, where, and again, because and I say younger generation, we're talking about senior adults now. Huh? So most of us, these children are in the 30s, 40s, they have their own families. They have their own families. So we're not talking about kids here. And Terry Ann, you know, you would hear, or I would listen sometimes to stories still of the disconnect between the parents and the children, whether it's your daughters or your sons or a family, you know, where I'm not talking to him or her because in the days they did extra, they were always all the reasons why, and you have that, and I don't want to use the hate, but you just have, you don't like, you know, we have this thing, we don't like the person again. And I find it's happening not just with among friends, that you continue that level of animosity or whatever, anger against that person, whether it's your friend or family. And when you take it into this stage in life, and you're now looking for a friend circle, you don't have, you're disconnected so much over the time with these people that you can't connect again. And what I was saying, troubling is especially when it is your child, your adult child. And there is a situation, and why I want to bring this up, because it has been troubling to me, where the son just not speaking, in this case, to the father-son relationship. And that was a result of whatever in growing up, you know, and they got further apart because the son migrated and that sort of thing. And when that happens, it means, of course, the son married and have, you know, wife, children, etc. And you mean you're not in touch with your grandchildren because of that. You're not in touch with your daughter-in-law. You kind of just cut. And as I said, we didn't have plenty. So in this case, in that case, I think they had other son, but the situation is, what do? You living with this sort of uncomfortable feeling. You're not happy with life because you're thinking it didn't have to reach this far. And I think that's something, it can happen, I guess, to any one of us. And I think that's something we should start mending, looking to mend relationship, whether it's it with your children, whether it is with a family member, whether it is a friend. I think we should look and see, really, why did I stop talking? What's the issue? What is really the issue? Now, if it's something can't be mended for, it's a serious thing, that's something else. But many times when you go within and you check it out, it's really, it's not serious enough to allow it to affect your life as you get older. What do you think about that?
While you could say it is true, it is not serious enough to allow it to affect your life. That's a hindsight kind of perspective. But I suppose for so many of us, there is a hurt that started a long time ago, and it's sort of calcified. And as you go along, and whether it started when parent, child, teenage, and you know how much you've done for that person, and the person, for whatever reason, shows ingratitude or disrespect or whatever it is, or it's dishonest in some way. And you stand your ground at that point, and they stand their ground, and this continuous standing ground just creating a zoom. And I think at one stage for us, pride says, I not backing down to you. I make you with the France wrong with you. I not backing down. You catch your tail however you go, and you have to come to me. And this disowned or this disenfranchised or broken person goes, I will show you. I will show you. And then you get into the what I have, I make, and you have nothing to do with it. And when we get to the stage where we are now alone or lonely, and
Mhm.
they are struggling with life, climbing that path. The gulf so wide, you just have no path. You don't know how to come back. And
Yeah,
you know, sometimes when you ask, how did this start? Your memory is so bad of what was
telling you.
your version of how it started, and their version might look like one is a horror story and one is a comedy. No similarities at all. And I think our society is not supportive of such reconciliations. I think there isn't space and place to make it comfortable for one party to say sorry and for the other party to forgive and forget. I think the society, whether it's malciousness, bad mind, or whatever it is, has a vested interest in digging up scabs and causing wounds to fester. And you really don't have support for reconciliation. If it's a man and a woman, you gonna let he do that? Or why you letting she do that? If it's a child and they feel they own, yeah. You know, there's no one saying, all right, but for the good of all. That sounds like some wimpy position, you know, a weak person for the good of all.
Yeah, but I think I think we, and as I said, we're looking at the stage we're at, and because, as I said, statistics show that we are the ones more
Suffering.
suffering as a result. Okay, so I believe now we have to take ownership and we have to face the truth of the situation, because we all have to look now and say, okay, let's face it, we would really like at this stage in our lives to have a little circle, a companion circle of, I call it a friend circle or family circle, however you want to put it. But we need some people around us who we could call on or who we feel will check on us or have our interests at heart, okay? And if so, and we really face the truth and see, and we ask ourselves, you know, what type of relationship we would like to have, or who would we like to have around us at this stage to be our support. You understand? To be our support. And obviously, when I say support, I'm not meaning to come to give us money, or do we not dependent on them. But that sort of support that you feel a little more comfortable and less lonely. Let me put it that way. And Terry, and if we ask ourselves that question, we could actually start to identify the people we would like to build that relationship with, or to maintain a relationship if we already have one, because listen, something could happen and we could lose that. And I believe if we start by doing that and list those, and in our cases, you may say, okay, I really want to maintain that relationship with my children or with my neighbors or with so and so friends, and you put it down. Because when we examine, so if I say, okay, and I'm listing five, if I'm a family person, so if I include my siblings in my grouping, and I am examining, and there are a few that I'm not getting along with, but they might be the last set standing to support me. Then Terry, and face the truth, and you have to forgive. You have to release, forgive, and as they say, stretch out a olive branch. I really feel it's up to us, because we have so many things that we always find fault. We could really judge and find fault. And we need to change that thinking if we really feel that it will help us if we have this circle of people there that we can call on or would look out for us. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
Understanding how society thinks.
there are so many assumptions that go before that, which is that you value social connectedness, as it were. And I would start by asking a simple question. And honestly, if we ask ourselves, who or what do you belong to? You know, who or what do you belong to? Meaning that, you know, who or what are you really connected with? What is a social group? It's an individual, it's an experience. You're a member of a club. Are you a true part of your neighborhood rather than it's an address? You might belong to a family by biology, but if you don't have any social connect, you're not connected to anybody. Do they know about it? Does at least one person there know about your current situations and issues and can respond? Not a academic belong, not a in the book. And I think if we do that kind of audit, we would get a sense of how at risk we are for in the next 5 years, 10 years, if an emergency happens, something comes up, how dependent on that belonging list, how strong the connections are that we can access reliable networks of people to support us, help us, carry us, wait with us, hold our hand. If you get a bad medical diagnosis, do you belong to a group where you feel that you can have someone come with you and really be open? And I think if we do that audit and we are happy with what we see, then I think we may have confidence to, all right, you have one or two down the line, let me go and fix it. Or it may be that you might say, you need to fix it with nobody. But if you do that audit and you realize that I don't really belong to anybody, and in the true sense of belonging, I don't mean nominally I have children or I have a spouse or some work colleagues or I am a member of the Lions Club. You know, if you do it and you realize that I really don't belong to anybody or to anything or anywhere, then I think, Jennifer, people may be jolted to, wait, I have to fix, I have to get things organized, because where this loneliness epidemic comes from is from so many years of pride, ego. And it's only, you know, we human beings never change just because we figure it's common sense to change. It is usually a crisis that causes us to change. So I would say that we first do a check of, put down on paper, if there is something to happen, 2 o'clock in the morning, you have to make a call. Do you have a list of people, at least 3 people that you can call and you can rely on, who will show up?
Well,
you know, family
like that
out
was
of the
audit.
country.
So if you come up with 0, then you have to start looking at that. And you really need to question yourself too. Why is that? When some people say, oh, I have no friends, I don't know this, you don't know who to call, we need to be truthful to ourselves and say, why is that? Maybe because we never put ourselves out, maybe because we judge everybody, we always look to find fault, and we're not talking to this one because we're always looking for a reason why not. Even within our own family circle, you tend to, you're having something and you're excluding this family member and you don't want these children and a whole story. So yes, in doing the audit, depending on what comes up. But if we first, Terry, and I think many times we are not truthful. We feel that we are right, no matter what. We have reached this stage. What we say, even in talking to friends, and they have their opinion, and you giving your opinion, and at the end of it, you feel, well, you're still right. You're not listening to, even if it's four of you all and three saying something different. Sometimes you come away still feeling they could say what they want. I know I am right. So we need to open our minds to start the conversation. It's not that we're right, not that we want to be right, but just be open. You don't have to be right. And when it comes to going back to the adult trend, because I am grateful, even and I share openly, even at the my granddaughter had a little party. And I watching things and I dare giving orders because I am a I am a person like order and things in a certain way. And I notice some things happening and I am saying, why are you all doing it? So you should do it X, Y, and Z. And my other daughter say, oh gosh, leave it alone, you're not learning. You're not learning at all. Leave it alone. That's the way they want to do it. It's not your way. It's the way they want to do it. Everybody seem happy. You want to get involved your way, and your way may not make them happy. I just had to face the reality that I was wrong. She's right. And I step back and I step back and I watch them and everybody was really happy doing it the way that I felt was the wrong way. You know? But if you're not open, Terry Ann, and your goal is not to allow others to be happy and do their thing. And your goal is to make it has to be done your way, the control. So if we're being honest, and if I'm honest and I like to control because I want order, then leave it alone. Then nobody would like you. Everybody will say, here she comes to give orders. So yeah. And at this stage, we have to be, Terry, and I find we have to be so careful. With the decisions we make, even what we say and how we say it. Because we're talking about not just building new relationship, but maintaining relationships. Because let me tell you, some people again say when you get older, like you get more miserable. And another one says because they're always miserable, they get worse. We have to watch it. I think as we age and we have certain expectations, we have to ask ourselves, we have expectations, we have certain needs now. Is it in line with how we treated others? You know what I mean? If we expect them to treat us a certain way, did we treat them so over the years?
Yeah. Because, there's a natural trajectory that things could go upon. You read really horrible stories about someone being, and I'm going to the extreme now. They find someone in an apartment, some old person passed out for days. When they start to smell, they find them. And you wonder, how could someone end up so isolated? Is it possible for me at this stage in my life to go 3 days without anyone contacting me if I don't call someone?
Yeah.
If I have nothing to do, is there a reason for someone contacting you or at least noticing your presence or absence every day? Even if it's a neighbor. If you're dead in a house for 3 days, it means it wasn't strange that the neighbor didn't see you for 3 days. And it's when you were smelled that people went to check. But if you didn't smell, nobody would check. So how do you get to such a stage of social isolation that you can be not missed And I think we can check ourselves now and ask ourselves, all right, in the last, look at your phone. Look at your phone. How many
Yeah.
calls did you receive over this weekend, over this past weekend? How many text messages or WhatsApp messages did you receive that you could answer to? Because a lot of people have communications as one way. There's such as junk mail and subscriptions for this and Amazon and buy this or buy that,
Yeah.
but not a connection with a human being who can link with you or talk to you. And I think if we use that same phone that we so love and look to see, go into the phone part with the calls and check over the weekend, how many calls did you receive or how many calls did you make? Could you call somebody?
Yeah.
You know, or go into your WhatsApp chats or whatever you use as your chats. How many social conversations did you have with someone where you learned about how they're going and what's happening with them, and not no juicy tidbit about what happened in
Yeah, but
somebody,
really,
something
just a touch base to say how things. Yeah.
yeah, these are things that would give you a sense of how isolated you are, whether you belong or you don't belong. And you know, you talked about relationships with children and stuff like that. How, what is status if you don't live with your children? Did you communicate with them over the past weekend? And what was the quality of that communication? Because those are the early indicators. If you're not lonely now, that you know this thing could begin to spiral and get out of control for you.
You know, Terry Ann, last week there was a survey, and these things come up every now and again, but it was among students, university students. And they were asking, well, in that case, they were really referring to their mothers. How often do they call their mothers? And some might say once a week, some might say every day, and the different things. And habit is really something else too. Some people just in the habit, that's what they know, always touch and base. And others, they don't have time to use the phone. That's not their thing. So but they at least try. Most of them say at least once a week,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I know people again who say, well, I don't like to use the phone, I don't like the WhatsApp thing, I don't like the Facebook thing, they don't like
Oh, go into
nothing.
it. Then you ain't talking to
But
nobody.
yeah. So they tend, as you say, they isolate
Or you're going to your
themselves.
business. If you're not doing that, then you're visiting somebody. You're
And
visiting a neighbor.
this visiting, hardly visit again. I don't have that visit like before you drop in on someone. So again, we have to be very conscious, as you say, to do that audit and check ourselves and say, but wait now, for the whole week, nobody called me to see how I'm going.
The
And
whole
I didn't
weekend.
even call.
Take the week out. Take the week out. The week people, they're busy, they're doing what? The weekend, the whole
Yes.
weekend, from Friday to today, Wednesday. Who called
But
you?
the other
Who
thing
you don't
is,
call?
if we don't do it, you can't expect others to do it. Huh? If we don't call and say how you're going and touch base, don't expect them to do it. It's just not fair. It's not a one-way situation. So we need to know that too. You know?
Then we have to check with our relationships with our children, as you talked about, because those are some of the closest relationships that when it's hospital thing and you had to get somebody to bring the nightie or bring the pajama and carry the dirty clothes and substitute
Mhm.
for the nurse and taking you on. Is blood have to come in there. And
Yeah.
if your call to the children or the children's call to you is a transactional call, do this for me and I'll do that for you. But you're
Yeah.
not calling, you didn't call to talk about what's going on. You know, what are the concerns in your life
Yeah.
and what are the joys of your life? You know, what exciting things happen, what good news you have, what bad news you have. And you know, to just understand what is happening, and because that is where the connectedness comes from.
Yeah.
You know, it's not see body children for me, or I want to get the car, or I need some money borrow, or you know, those kinds of transactional things, which I think will help us to build belonging and connectedness and have relevance in people's lives, and avoid us getting into a space where we are alone and lonely. You know, I think it does. But Jennifer, we've been talking about this, and I think we may really have some issues because we have a long period to either, depending on where we are, it's 10, 20, 30 years.
Oh,
You
yes.
have to decide in an age where, as they say, we have so much more ease of communication and connectedness, but yet we're still so alone, whether we want to allow those gaps to continue to build. And it's so easy to just tell somebody, hello, how are you going?
As I said, because there's a the conversation happening more and more. I guess right and in the 70s is probably different because you realize, hey, the mortality, you're facing mortality, and you're saying, but wait now, I'm not getting the calls as you used to get, or you want to go somewhere and you're now they
In the
list down to
70s,
only two.
Jennifer, in the 70s, it wouldn't have been calls. It would have been people passing in the neighborhood and the street because
Yeah, well, we
it was
go.
a landline and everybody didn't have a
So we are in a different
payphone.
time.
You gotta go by the
And you
payphone.
know, let's admit it. You can't have, they're not dropping in as you said as before. And we have to take action. But the conversation, and that's when, you will call somebody and say, well, I was thinking of you, I meant to call you, you know. Or I saw you, so and so, you might meet them up in the mall and say, oh gosh, I haven't seen you. We really must get, we always say that, we really must get together. We could go for tea, or we could go for lunch, or we could visit. No. So we need to be more conscious, and I think we spoke about this before also. Take action, invite somebody over, just do things. We
Even
need to get out there, or
yeah.
when you're home, as you, Terry said, take up the phone, make a call, we'll talk,
Walk out your house, walk out your son and the neighbor door and say, how you going?
So, because listen, we have to admit now, and the younger generation, they're busy, really, really busy. So they are caught up in their own lives. And sometimes we might make demand and say, oh, gosh, you'll pass and pick me up, or pass and do this, or even passing to say hello. They don't even have that time. So we have to connect with our peers who have the time, to do it. Yeah.
I think that is a very, very important point, Jennifer, because I think many of us, and it's I empathize with I know several persons who are alone and at the borderline of lonely, and sometimes they step into lonely and they step back into alone and they step into lonely, and it doesn't look like the future is too bright. And it is when you look at the carnage that you've left behind by this fight and confusion about, and all the time you have struggles like that, it's fundamentally about being right, huh?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It just, you're wrong. You're wrong and I am right, and you're not yielding. You're not yielding. And people just, it's so painful. It's so painful to reach out. And that's why I said, sometimes there are things that you can do. The people closest to you, the family, might be the hardest bridge to walk across because there is so much pain in that bridge. But sometimes if you build other bridges and you get a little reassurance, like you build little networks in other places. Like I said, I plan to go to this National Trust thing with some other people. They couldn't go, and I really said to myself, should I bother? Then I said,
Yeah.
yes, you want to go to that place. You want to go to Matalat. When's the last time I went to Matalat and, go in the river and all that kind of crazy stuff that I like? No problem, I go in. And the social observer that I am, you saw the people coming in and you saw who coming in kind of, and by the end of the evening, when people leaving the bus, all right, next time, see ya, bye-bye. You don't know what they're going home to. You don't know what people going home to. But at least they've made the first step, come out, made a connection, feel better. And when you feel better, I think you might be better able to confront those really bad situations.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling badly about yourself, you just don't have the strength, you don't have it in you to confront a child or a spouse or a sibling or a neighbor or a parent, worse if it is a parent.
Yeah, and as you say, I could understand and I appreciate persons might say they don't like a set of friends around them. They prefer being alone home. They could read, could do those things. But listen, that's all well and good, I tell you. Yeah? But at some stage, you need somebody you will have to call on. You can't be, you're home all the time, you're happy with your life, you're good. But you need at some stage somebody to call and say, listen, I need to go to the doctor and I really don't feel like driving. Yes, you could call one of those taxis that come, but that is a different who waiting with you. I have been fortunate in all the occasions when I had any sort of medical issue or emergency. My daughter's not available. I had friends I know with surety, and it has happened. You call and they, whatever they're doing, they, leave the office, close their offices, whatever, and come, and they are not just drop me, they're with me. Let me tell you, that make a big difference, That's healing. That's part of the healing. You feel so much better with somebody there with you. And as I said, part of the aging process, something may happen, hold on here, I can't move, I need somebody to come and help me.
Listen,
it's nice knowing you have somebody there. And I love to do that for friends.
Casualty. Go and sit down casualty for a day. And you look around at the wreckage of it. Go and sit down for a day.
Yeah. So, and I will do it. I am happy to do it for a friend. I'm very happy to do it. To touch base and know if they need me, I can be there to help. Yeah. So it makes a difference, as I said. You should not be selfish. Yeah. You should not be selfish.
You shouldn't be. Yeah? But I know that people are, and they are, and I'm talking to the people who find themselves in a place where they are not coming off of a history of solid friendships, a history of unbroken friendships. They say, I have friends for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, you have people who, if you check, this is another thing that you could check, the circle that you have around you, how long have you known them? It may very well be, and I'm not talking about the just random casual circle, I'm talking about the people who you belong to, who you say you belong to. How long have you known these people so that you can rely on them and so on? And the thing about it is that even if that circle is thin, paper thin or non-existent, you can start, and you can start, because this is the reason that we have in this discussion, is that this is an issue that is at the front of our minds. Some of us are talking about it, most of us are not.
Yeah.
And the likelihood is you could have someone sharing the same concern that you do somewhere in your orbit. And if there is nobody in your circle, there's a person that you can start. If you all have another 10, 20, 30 years to go down the road, at least you could rely on another. And one other thing I would like to say, Jennifer, that is so, so, so important, especially as we get older. We need to have in our belonging circle somebody who at least 30 years younger than us. Because
Yeah, and I guess
two
that
shaky old
is,
people going down the road cannot help one another.
no, I agree with you. And in cases where, and that's why it don't have to be family. And those who have family could say, well, okay, in that case, I might say, all right, yes, I do have that. But yeah, you could build that relationship. It
Yeah.
could be, I still have my team of persons who worked with me. And of course, they were much younger.
Mm-hmm.
And they would always call to see how I'm going. They're still in the workforce, they're still very young. And they would always call and see how you're going and what you're doing. And I not too long ago, I invited them over, say come and hang. And it's a whole young team. So yeah, that's important to build that sort of relationship too. I agree with you on that.
The nieces, the nephews, the cousins,
Mhm.
the children, if you have your children around you, their friends, not that they're going to become your friend, but the
No, but they,
types of relationships, the people who can be part of that network. And Jennifer, we were talking about something the other day that I'd like to raise at this point, that in the way life is going, if we think of ourselves 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, and we say, all right, what kind of help might we need?
yeah.
We can begin to recruit that help from now, because to wait down the road to recruit a stranger, and recruit in this space doesn't necessarily mean hire. It means that relationship, that person who understands, whether it is support your mobility needs, whether it is support you with
Uh,
getting shopping done so that you have proper meals prepared, whether it is you and your companion who you live with, or whether it is you alone or whatever it is.
yeah.
Those, if we start thinking about those kinds of things, we can begin to really figure out, I think I will need a driver. I really think I
But
would
I
need a
I need a driver
reliable
right now.
person.
So yeah.
So
No.
things like those, a reliable person to take me. Or you might have a car, you let them drive the car, or you find somebody who has a car. Because other than that, it can become, if you do it when you have the emergency, it can become a very expensive
Yeah.
issue. You might identify a shopper, somebody to come with you when you go. I look in the grocery now, and so many, they have these carts where people can sit and someone is pushing them. And when
Yeah.
your foot broken or you
And they
get
make their goods.
older,
Yeah.
if we think about, all right, me 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, assume that my children migrate, make the assumption that I survive my spouse and whatever it is, what kind of help would I need then? I can't wait until then to start to
No, it's
fill
the
that.
awareness. It's the awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't like to think about that. We don't like to project to the future. And if you don't want to bring a stranger into your life, then that's the reason you have to start mending some of the fences that you're
You
holding
know,
on to.
Terry, and when I look back in the days, mommy and my grandmother and they, there's always some we used to say distant cousin of family from the country, somebody who they felt weren't doing well then, they couldn't take care of themselves. and they will invite them to come live with us because they're grandmother and they get to help out. So they live in the house, they're there, they're supporting, they're helping, but they live in a better quality life and they're getting a meal, they're in a comfortable bed, things like that. And, that was really preparing to have somebody you could trust to help take care in those days, well, the old, I won't say the older ones, because it could be an older aunt, your grandmother, that's it. And we just took it for granted. And it wasn't because the house was so big or we had no sort of money. But now I understand because it didn't have the old age home or the senior homes and all that. So they had to stay in the house, but they needed a parents and those who needed help. And they did that, you know.
And all
So
of
it's
them gone
just a
away.
modern version of how we do it. We don't have the distant cousins and the
They're
families,
going
but we
away.
could do.
They're going away. They
Yeah,
migrate.
we don't have that many again. But we do have, it's the same concept. We have to look at who going to help us certain things we wouldn't be able to do again. And we need to start looking at that. Yeah.
There are some when you think of elder care, and we're all going to get to the point. There are two kinds of services. Fundamentals, I'm saying the wrong words, but it's fundamentals for daily living, like feeding, toileting, bathing, clothing, meal preparation, and stuff like that. And then there are aids to daily living, which will include transport, managing your finances, getting to the bank, doing your shopping, paying bills, doing errands, things like all those kinds of things. And as we get older, if we remain disconnected and isolated, and we don't have, if you can't reach, well, you're not on the online banking now. You're going in the bank. If you can't reach the bank, oh,
You
you're
need,
going to
and
pay the phone bill and the light bill. How are you going to pay? So,
but Terry Ann, and you're aware, these are services being offered right now.
yeah,
They actually have these services. So it means you have to have someone who you could trust and you develop that relationship with.
exactly.
Because they
Otherwise,
do all your banking, they pay all the bills, etc.
yeah.
They do the runaround for you. And I remember in the early, before I left insurance, there was a businessman who had called me, who was a client of mine, to do some of that type of runaround, not for his business, his personal, things.
No, people
And
call
was
it
saying,
people
this
call
is
it
what I
personal
want you to do.
assistance. People call it
Yeah.
personal assistance.
It's a personal assistant. So they have it right now. You can get a personal assistant to do those things. Someone you could trust, because not all of us have somebody to do it for us, or we're not very techy now. You're just not able with that. And again, you may have your own transport, somebody who drives and they take you around. They take you around. Now you could call up, well, since the COVID, you can call up because you can text your list and you just go and pick up, and now someone delivering it home. Hey,
Yeah. Some people still want to go out,
which is okay.
those kinds of things. And the point is, if you identify, say in 5 years' time, I need to start identifying, and you put yourself in the mindset of looking around to see who can be my life assistant, my personal. If you don't have that person, that family, that connectedness there, if unfortunately you don't have the relationship with your close family, you have to think about that. But to Jennifer's point, is we have a few minutes, very few minutes left. We have to start mending fences. And Jennifer, you had some ideas about how we could mend fences. And I think we have just 2 minutes to discuss those mending fences.
Well, I really did write, took some notes. So I'll just quickly, and we covered it. And we're talking about reaching out to persons who we, for some other reason, we can't even remember why we're not talking to them, but they may be very, we could mend fences. Reflect as on the relationship, look to see why, really, what is the issue? Sometimes it's just, as you say, bad mind or ego. This thing about respect boundaries, I believe in that, and that comes a lot with family and leave it alone. Leave it alone. We don't have to be right. It don't have to be our idea that they have to follow. Apologize. We tend not to apologize and say we are sorry and mean it. You're really sorry. It makes a difference when you tell people that. So forgive, stay positive. We need to be positive and not negative. And so being positive, you remove that fear. We fear something will happen. We fear nobody would come to us, etc. Try and be as independent too, in terms of not, I would put it the other way, not to be dependent. Not all the time you want somebody to keep doing something for you. And in those of us who have children, it's like payback. We did everything for them, so it's your turn to do it for me. Oh gosh, ease up. So I would say that. And just have faith. And when we really down and you can't make it for yourself, we always recommend seek professional help. And that's about it in a nutshell.
Definitely.
Ways that we can really live a happy life and not go into this loneliness stage. Yeah.
Great. So we really do hope that you've got a lot of food for thought, and we will see you next week with another very interesting discussion about how we continue to be vigorous and happy and on our third act stage. We don't have to be any lonely, isolated person. Okay. So
Okay.
it's been a
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
50+ Tribe and followers from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.